Aloha and welcome back to Practical Printing. It's been a while since we've done a review here on the channel, and today, with the help of my squeaky little friend here, we are going to review the FlashForge Artemis. You ready? Let's do it. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us today. This is the FlashForge USA Artemis. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, that looks a lot like a Finder 3. And you're right, it does, and we'll cover the differences here in a bit. Now, for anybody that caught it earlier this summer, I did live stream the unboxing and the first print of this guy over on Twitch, and I've logged over 200 hours of prints on this guy over on MakerDeck. So it has been put through some paces. It's got its pros and cons, and we'll talk about all of those today. Now, disclaimer up front, this was sent to me for review by FlashForge. No money has changed hands. I was not incentivized in any other way to express a positive or a negative opinion. They just wanted to know what I think and to share that with you all. So that said, let's take a look at the hardware first, and then we'll jump in and take a look at some of the prints and some more of the details about it. So as you can see, this is an HBot style machine where the print head stays up here on top. Now, it comes with two options for the build plate. You can use a flex plate, such as this, that's held on by magnets, or it comes with a traditional glass bed with the black sticky surface that people like. It does come with a printed user guide, and it comes with a handy bag of lubricant, a couple of tools, glue stick, extra nozzles, that kind of thing. Now that's for the Artemis. Here's the main difference between the Artemis and the Finder 3. Now the Artemis is going to be available in blue and black, or yellow and black. The Finder 3 is going to be available in red only. They both can hit up to 260C on the hot end. They both have the same direct drive extrusion system. The Finder 3 will come with one roll of filament. The Artemis came with two rolls of filament. Scrolling down on the notes here. The Artemis came with 3 extra nozzles. The Finder 3 does not come with that. Additionally, if you're in the US, where this might matter to you, is that FlashForge USA does have US tech support, a US warranty out of California, whereas the Finder 3 is out of China, so you may be fighting against time zones. And they actually offer phone support in the US for the Artemis, but they do not offer it on the Finder 3. The Artemis will ship from California. The Finder 3 will ship from China. So those are the core differences between them. With that said, we're talking about the printer dimensions as being in millimeters, 406 by 416 by 469 high, or in inches, that's 16 by 16.4 by 18.5 inches tall. The weight of this, the net weight, is roughly 22 pounds or 10 kilograms. It is a hefty little box. It's a very, rugged frame. Operates on both 120 or 210 electrical, up to 230. It uses 24 volt DC power inside. And the connectivity, and we'll talk more about this later, but the connectivity is either Wi-Fi or the USB stick in front, the thumb drive. Print volume is 190 by 195 by 200 millimeters, or 7.5 by 7.7 by 7.9 inches tall. And it uses 1.75 millimeter filament. The rest is, your standard standard stuff. Those are the key points. I have tested it with both PLA and PETG. I did not test it with any flexibles. I'll come back to a note on that later, or any other types of filaments. Part of that was because of the intended environment. Now, this printer comes in at a price point roughly around $500, give or take, depending on where you're buying it. And it's also available as an education bundle. And the core audience, as the finder before it, is mostly the education marketplace or public spaces. So that's where this works well. Although you still have an exposed hot end here that you can get to if you stick your hand up in it. You know, the bed comes down, it distracts you to keep away, but everything is pretty much covered. So it's less likely, I mean, again, there is still a hot end and it's still a nozzle, but it's less likely for somebody, a child, to reach in and get burned than they would with a more traditional Cartesian style printer, or a bed slinger, as we would often call them. Now, setting these aside, let's talk a little bit more about the printer, what I liked and what I don't care for. And then we'll look at what it's capable of doing. Okay. I like that you have the option of both the glass plate, because some people are diehard glass fanatics. It is a removable glass plate, mind you. It is, you set it on there, these clips hold it in place. Or they give you the option of the traditional flex plate, which is smooth on one side and textured on the other. And the one caveat with that is, while they tell you you have the option of using both, once you put that magnet on there, you can't really use the glass. You're kind of limited at that point to using the flex plate. So you need to pick and choose which one you want. Obviously, you could remove the magnet and go back to the glass should you choose to, but then you'd have to purchase a new magnet, you know, yada, yada, yada. But I do like that you have the option of both. Here's something I didn't like. It doesn't use standard nozzles. They are proprietary to the machine, to the best of my knowledge. They are an odd size, which means, and I think is a mistake, being something in the education marketplace, that is a consumable that you will have to go back to the manufacturer for, or find a third party that makes aftermarket nozzles specifically for this printer. You can't just pick up an M8 nozzle or an E3D style nozzle and put it on like most other printers would, which could increase the downtime in the classroom. Now, as I mentioned, your connectivity also is via the USB port here in the front or via Wi-Fi. I like both those options. The Wi-Fi works, you use their version of the slicer. It is a front end for Cura. It works well, but you can use any slicer that you want if you're more comfortable with Prusa slicer, Super slicer, full version Cura, whatever. It will just print regular G-code files. But their version works well. They have profiles for it. It's pretty easy to use, and it's good out of the box for that education market or for newbies directly into 3D printing. There isn't a lot to modify on this thing, or that can be user modified. Back to connectivity. What I don't like, two things. One is that when you print from a USB stick, it copies the file from the USB stick to internal memory. I like that because that ensures that it's, if this gets knocked or pulled out accidentally during your print isn't destroyed. So it caches it on internal memory. What I don't like is when the print is over, it leaves it on internal memory. It kind of defeats the purpose of using the USB stick to bring the file over and print it from there if it's going to copy it from the internal memory anyway. The Wi-Fi, when you use that with their slicer, FlashPrint, the slicer copies it to the internal memory. You can't copy it externally. You can also have basic controls of the printer once you're connected to it to start a print, stop a print, you know, move things left, right, whatever. The UI is pretty intuitive, and let's take a quick look at a video of that. So as you can see, you can get around pretty easily from the UI. You can select where you want to print from, whether it's internal or the external disk, i.e. the thumb drive. Manipulate the printer, warm it up, load filament, unload filament, etc., etc. Now back to connectivity. As I said, there was two things that I didn't like. The first was that it copies it to the inside drive when you print from USB, and it doesn't remove it. The second thing I did not care for was that Wi-Fi and disk is your only option to connect to this printer. You do not have the ability to tether it to a computer via a standard USB connection, and there is no hardwired network connectivity into it. Which means if you have a problem, or as a teacher you need to get into something, you're kind of screwed, especially if you can't get to that Wi-Fi or something happens. I know from my experience doing a lot of audio video work in classrooms, they don't like a lot of Wi-Fi. They prefer things to be wired on local networks within the classroom in a contained lab. So I'll leave it at that. Everyone's going to have different opinions, but that's just mine. I would have preferred had they had a wired connectivity option as well. Also, if you need to send G-code or anything to it to do any kind of calibrations or whatever. Spinning things around here to the back side, the filament spool rides on the back, and as I said, with the Artemis, they do include 2 full spools of filament. This happens to be a roll of printed solid on here. Right now, this is the Jesse PLA Design White. That was for another project I'm working on. It has a filament sensor, so the path is from the spool up through the filament sensor, through the reverse Bowden tube, and this is just a guide tube to the direct drive extruder. Very simple. It keeps it behind it and out of the way, and again, in the education area, it's one less thing for students to be touching. It would be more likely that your teachers or teachers' aides would be changing or loading filament, not the students, right? Unless, of course, maybe if they're high school or older kids, in which case they should be capable of doing this themselves. Other than that, it is mechanically sound. It is a solid piece of equipment. Very well thought out. I mean, it's just an evolution of their existing designs, so they're not really inventing anything new. It does not have automatic bed leveling. However, I will say with this style of bed and how rigid this is, it is a full metal plate going on 2 rods with the center lead screw. I leveled this bed twice. Once when I put on the glass plate to test it out, and the second time when I took off the glass plate and put on the flex plate. I have not had to level the bed since. It has been rock solid. The fact that you can lift off the bed plate and take it outside of the printer has pretty much eliminated the need to manipulate that inside of the printer. All right, so now let's set this aside and let's take a look at what is this printer actually capable of doing. We're going to slide this up here. We're going to set these pieces inside of it, and we're going to magically bring out the prints. Bring out the prints. Bring out the prints. All right, well, it works for Joel. Let's try it one more time. Bring out the prints. There we go. All right, so I got a lot of great prints. This is just a portion of this of what I've ran, and just wanted to show some of the samples. Again, almost all of these were ran on MakerDeck, and I'll show you what was PETG, what was PLA, and in between. One we've got the Fix Some Dude frog, and that was one of the first things that we printed. And we did 2 of these, and they came out flawless. Yep, I mean, look at that top surface quality. These are just beautiful. All right, so this was the Drippy Bucket by Dave Moneysign. Now, the blue was printed in PETG. The silver was printed in, I'm sorry, backwards. The blue is PLA. The silver is actually a PETG. That came out really good. Now, it does have a layer shift or a little bit of ringing or something here going around it. And I don't know what caused that, but you can see it all through the print and it seems to correct itself. So it's just on that one layer. Success with that, I had to scale it up to 150% and try it again. Now, the reason there's tape on this is because I had to print the handle in 2 pieces to be able to put it together. The silver is the same PETG. It's the Filament 1 PETG. The blue is also a Filament 1 PETG. And the orange is Brad's PLA from Printed Solid. This guy hidden in the back is a nice little planter. I don't recall the modeler of this, but I will have a description in the links down below. This came out great. Now, it's not a Vase Mode print. It is a thick wall print, but it emulates the Vase Mode style. And I printed this for my wife to use for some of her succulents. This was the first print that was done during the live stream. It came out pretty good. There was a little bit of under extrusion on the top using the factory settings. This came preloaded on the machine. However, the first layer looked great. So I think that was just a little bit of thermal on that. Possibly it was a little too cool for that. You can see the infill on this. This is a multicolor filament with a black and I believe this is supposed to be a 3-color between the copper, a yellow, and the black. I use the same thing to print these fabric, trying to think that could be fun to play with, and I actually printed a whole bunch of these, thinking that the wife could use them for coasters. But they're fun because every side is slightly different color. So it creates some neat shadows. I did a couple of large ones, a couple of small ones, and I broke this one, but it's there. This is a Vase Mode print. This is from Bugman 140, aka Nick Dimelo, and I'll have a link to this down below. This was Vase Mode done in Printed Solid Design White. As you can see, this came out just flawless. And layer adhesion is great. I mean, this is, for a Vase Mode print, is very strong. Now, this was done with a 0.6 millimeter nozzle. After I had tried changing it out just for the last 2 prints, that one and this one. This is the MakerDeck logo. And again, little bit of over extrusion on this one. This was done before the Vase Mode. I backed up the temperature off it on this one for the vase print, just after seeing how the Design White printed. Of course, everything wasn't all roses. We did have our share of failures. This was an attempt at the balloon spinner. A couple of false starts on this guy. And we did the Fix Some Dude BD1 kit card, and unfortunately I had one corner that was slightly off and started working, or warping. That was my bad because I had a bunch of fingerprint oil on the bed plate, cleaned it off just fine, and that would have moved on and came out great. So that's a me user error, not a printer user error. The last thing to show you is these 2 guys. This one has no bottom, so it's a jiggly rose. This one I added the bottom to, and this is just the rose print. Again, all of these were done over on MakerDeck, as well as several other prints. So If you ever go back and watch the VODs over there, you can see plenty of them being done. Overall, I am impressed with the print quality of this using all out-of-the-box settings with the factory slicer and no additional tuning. The only thing that I changed in the software was the temperatures for different materials. For example, I bumped it up for this particular PETG we were using, and some of the different PLAs that I was using, I went up or down depending on what those manufacturers or those particular filaments like to see. Other than that, all the settings were stock. Oh, with the exception, I turned off the raft. It comes by default with the raft enabled, and I nixed the raft because I don't like rafts. So, to wrap things up here, in conclusion, is this a good machine for you? You are the only one that can answer that, because I don't know who you are, you being the particular person watching right this very minute, and I don't know what your needs are. So if you are a home user just getting started out and you're willing to spend a little bit more for support, and knowing that you have a warranty to back you, and you want something simple that works well out of the box with no assembly, this might be a good option for you, though I find it a little bit higher in price for that segment. If you're a teacher and you're looking for something to outfit your classrooms, the FlashForge printers have been in use in classrooms for years now. They have proven themselves, and this particular model is no different. Again, except for the few things that I pointed out as far as the hot end design requiring a proprietary nozzle, and that you only have Wi-Fi or USB thumb drive connectivity, and that you can't hook it up to a computer via a wired connection, either Ethernet or USB. At that price point, with that warranty and that service, and even the education bundle available that comes with curriculum, this might be a good printer for your classroom or for use in a library or some sort of a public space where you need something that's just robust, reliable, and just works. So all that said, is it the best printer in the world? Can't put it in that category. It is a little on the higher price side for what it's capable of doing. But again, if you're looking for that out-of-the-box, robust machine, no tinkering, in fact, not really tinkerable, then it might be the right machine for you. All right, so with all that said, and I saved it up for the end here, you've heard me mention MakerDeck a few times. If you're not familiar with MakerDeck, I have a link down below in the description. MakerDeck is a new place to hang out over on Twitch. It is a continuous live stream 24/7, 365 of just making. There are 3D printers, there are sewers, there are Lego builders, there are woodworkers, bowl turners, quilters, knitters, you name it. It is fun to watch, and even more, we'd love to see you on there making. Everyone is welcome. It is an inclusive community. We encourage everybody to participate. If you're not comfortable being in front of a camera, that's great, because we don't want to see you. We want to see what you're doing. We want to see you making. So that's my quick plug for MakerDeck. Again, the link is down below in the description, or find me on social media if you'd like more information about it. And with that, I'd like to thank FlashForge USA for sending this over for me to review. If you have any additional questions, you know where to find me on social media. Again, the links are down below in the description. If you'd like more information about the Artemis, links are below in the description. With that, I bid you aloha.